And the city attorney?
County attorney.
County attorney. Ooh, geez, don't let me make that mistake. County attorney, Ms. Hooker. Thank you all for being here with us today. I think it's the only one that's seen elected officials. Okay, roll call.
Roll call for today, February 25th. Councilmember Baker.
Present.
Councilmember Khalid. Councilmember Reeves.
Present.
Councilmember Gilliard.
Present.
Councilmember Willis.
Present.
Councilmember Gumbs.
Present and accounted for.
Councilmember Ryle. Also present is City Manager, Mr. Donald, City Attorney, Ms. Walker, and Mayor Bill Edwards. You have a quorum.
Okay, I would ask that if you have any electronic devices that you now turn them off or turn them to the silent position. Madam Clerk, would you?
Our first item for this evening is Small Business Program Development Early Morning Software Presentation by Procurement.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. We're here today to present for the Mayor and Council's consideration the small business program that's going to be administered through the Department of Procurement. The purpose of the small business program is to stimulate participation of local small businesses with government contracts and procurement, especially as it relates to the city of South Fulton. One of the goals of the program is to identify contracting opportunities and package them in a way that small businesses within the city boundaries can take advantage of. This program will give us the ability to track the amount of contracts that are generated. It will give us the ability to track the payments that are made under these contracts. It would also give us the ability to track the jobs that are created as a result of these local businesses doing contracting opportunities with the city. We have today a representative from PRISM Compliance, Ms. Deborah Bowder, and she will give us a high-level overview of the design of the program, the intended implementation of the program, and the expected results of the program. Thank you. Yes, and just for further information, this was a competitively procured contractor. It is under the $25,000, so it did not go out as a formal solicitation. However, the interest in this began with our interest in conducting a disparity study. And in pursuing the disparity study, it was revealed to me that we did not have sufficient history with our procurements to support a disparity study. Additionally, the disparity study would have cost approximately $300,000. So in pursuing this, I interviewed the disparity study firms and took a look at 4 other firms before making the decision to go with PRISM. I believe that they present the best opportunity for the city. They presented the best software, and I think they have the best plan of implementation.
I have a question.
And Ms. Deborah Bowder is here, and she'll give the high-level overview of what the program is intended and the timeline for implementation.
Okay.
Go ahead. No, go
Good
ahead.
evening. I would like to thank you on behalf of Early Morning Software for giving us this opportunity and believing in us to purchase the software. So I will give you just a brief overview, and we will come back to you periodically to let you know where we are with the process and how it will work. We will do training and what have you.
Where's it going to queue?
Madam Clerk, is everything open for them to get into the queue? Mr. Adams, is everything ready for them to get into the queue when they want to?
I can't, because I don't have it.
Go ahead. Just go ahead while he's doing that. There we go.
Okay, our presentation, preparation of the project initiation and council presentation. We, executive goals, procurement and policy objective, the geographic boundaries for the city of South Fulton, deliverables, and we got to this presentation. We will, part of our process is to examine like programs. You want to have a small business program, so we are going to review small business programs within the area and within other areas that are similar to make sure that we are making the right recommendations for South Fulton County. We will roll out most of our modules for this software to allow you to be able to track all you need to track initially. Our project team is the project executive is Donna Stevenson, who is the owner of the software, Moyo Fake, who is the project manager. I am the business analyst, Deborah Mathis Browder. The procurement consultant is Kathy Martin, and the PRISM consultant, who will be uploading your information, is Judith Devasi. PRISM is a web-based software program, so you don't have to worry about how much storage you need or any of that because it's web-based. And our contacts at South Fulton County is Anthony Carr and his procurement specialist. We will review your current procurement policies, formal contracts over $25,000, local business preference ordinances, vendor preference programs, local residents, vendor and local resident. For your informal bids, we will also take a look at how that is procured, and those are your purchases from $2,500 to $25,000. We will review your small business practice. We will explore creating a sheltered market, policy by funding for the DBE projects that you will have, and first look within City of South Fulton. We will draft a small business enterprise program policy and submit it for discussion to you before finalization and implementation. Phase 2 of our program is that in developing a small business program, we will develop training materials. We will conduct training for your buyers, your managers, and your stakeholders. We will also develop a small business database and outreach. The software is capable of sending out notices to your vendors about meetings, about procurements, and all of that is a part of what we will be rolling out. You will be able to register online and verify your vendors online as well. We will take a look at your current primes that you're currently using, and because you don't have a database right now, we will be pulling from, we'll get permission from the City of Atlanta, who has a small business program, as well as GDOT, who is the certifying entity for all DBE projects for the state of Georgia. And we will pull that into your database to give you a pool of vendors to draw upon. And we will conduct a small business outreach campaign. Part of being able to build capacity is to reach out to your local vendors, and we will help Mr. Kerr do the first outreach to your vendors within this area. The third phase of it is performance reporting. The software itself has 150 standard reports within it, and we will work with you to identify the ones that you would want in order to get the greatest value out of it. And we will train your staff in how to generate those various reports. And we will be, hopefully, I think Ms. Stevenson said that we were slipping about 2 weeks because of various things. So It is showing that we are going to have another executive briefing by June the 30th, but it may be about mid-July, just to be safe. This is just to show the various modules that the software has, which is a vendor module, an outreach module, a contract module, compliance module, certification. Those are the ones that would apply to South Fulton County. But because of the customers that we have go beyond just municipalities, we also do label certified payroll, affirmative action, workforce, and concessions. And like I said, we will take a look at what it is that you are trying to get out of this, what you want to see in your reports. And from this, we will craft reports directly for South Fulton County. And this is just a detailed breakdown as to how it works. This is just an overview of one of the reports that we do. It shows payment by diversity, and it we can do Gantt charts, pie charts, however you want to be able to display your dashboard as to the information you'd like to see. And that is it.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Willis, you're in the queue.
Mr. Kerr, thank you for your presentation. We met about 6 months ago with another prospect about doing a disparity study. Of course, that's where we got the $300,000 for. So is this the company that's going to be doing it, or is this the company that's capturing the data so that the disparity study can be done so that we can move forward with my legislation?
Yes, this provides the data to support the disparity study. What came out of the meeting with Strong?
Yes, Attorney Strong.
Attorney Strong. What he was saying is the disparity study looks at the procurement practices, let's say going back 5 years. They take a total of all the contracts that have been awarded. They look at all the available vendors, and they'll make an analysis and see if there's any disparity in our procurement practices. We didn't have enough history, I believe, to support that. And additionally, we didn't have the funding to even pursue that aggressive of a program. So what this does, this gives us the information that we need. In this program, it will give us the ability to track every contract. It's targeted to local vendors, so they'll register, and when payments are made, the primes in those contracts will record their payments through the system. The subs would also record their payments. Then there's another module that will show the amount of jobs that are created. So this will give us all the data we would need moving forward.
Okay, and so how long will it take us to capture the data before we can move forward to the next step, and then once we capture enough data, will we have to do another RFP to procure a company to come in and do the actual, study?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, so how long is it going to take to capture that data?
The data is an ongoing process. Having been a disparity study consultant myself, he's right, we need 5 years worth of data. But the data, because you don't have any institutional data, and you're getting in on the front end, it will allow you to, it'll save you money. That's first thing, because if you start collecting it on Excel spreadsheets and what have you, that's data that has to be transferred. So you are directly putting it into a system, and we are probably tracking most, if not all, of the information that would be needed for you to do your disparity study.
Okay. And so I guess, Attorney Walker, at what point, we're in this process now, so at what point do we move on to do the disparity study?
So are we at a point where we're about ready to finalize the cost?
For this project or for this fair?
Well, the reason I asked that, and I guess we don't need to
because you were in that meeting as well when we met with
correct.
Attorney Strong.
That's correct, but the reason I asked that is because, as you know, my law firm also represents the city of College Park, and there is interest on their end in potentially sharing the cost of this study, because you essentially have.
No, I didn't know that. You never brought that to my attention.
Well, this is something that we discussed with them, like within the last.
You didn't discuss that with me, and this is my legislation.
Well, I discussed that with them in attorney-client capacity, so I would have to get authorization from them to bring that to you. They've authorized us to initiate discussion, so I would see how you feel as a city about that, and then based on what a consensus of council members say, if it's something that you're interested in, then I would go back to College Park and I would say they are interested, and then we can move forward. But I think the bottom line with their interest is that since you have the same demographic, to curb costs, they are willing to entertain discussions to split the price.
Thank you.
Ms. Rao?
Thank you for the presentation. Based on what you're saying and the fact that we're only 3 years old, it seems like what you're saying is we're at least possibly a couple years away to meet the criteria.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that I think is I commend or I like about what you presented is that you'll go look at other municipalities to make sure, hopefully, we'll be proactive and we won't have the disparity.
Right.
Because you're saying you'll help identify a pool of vendors that the city could tap for services. So I think that's great news. So is that 5 years, is that just a standard pretty much?
Well, you're a new city as
Right.
well, so typically you need some data, and some
Right.
data typically is about 5 years. Some
Okay.
people say between 3 to 5 years, but most disparity studies would rather do 5 years because it'll give you a type of trend, so they'll be able to do all of the statistical analysis that need to be done for a municipality.
And would not gathering this data help us to, I would hope if our system is capturing this, it would be a lot less expensive to do the study if we had a lot of the data already on the front end.
Typical example, I was project director for the Philadelphia, the first study they did years ago. The data alone, because they had it on every form you could imagine, from notebooks to ledgers to what have you, it was $1 million for data.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't have any further questions. Thank you, Mr. Kerr, for bringing this. I think it's the right thing to do to start gathering the data on the front end and see how we can improve and try to work towards that. And these dashboard reports, are they typically available for the public to see, or how does that work?
It depends on how you want to tailor it. If you would like for your vendors to go on and see certain reports, they can do that. Or if you want to just limit it to your staff and the board, you can do that as well.
Okay. I guess I would just ask that our city manager figure out, what information, we're very committed to transparency, and I think this is an area that residents and businesses would be very interested. So as we move forward in this project, if you could figure out how to incorporate some of that data in your city manager's report, I think that would be helpful. Thank you.
And I have a vested interest as well. I am a citizen of South Fulton, the city of South Fulton, and this is my profession that I have been working on for the past 30 years. So I have an interest in seeing South Fulton do very well.
But that's even better. Thank you.
Okay, we'll conclude. Ms. Gumbs, you're the last person in the queue. We'll conclude with Ms. Gumbs, and we'll move on to the next agenda item, Madam Clerk.
That was definitely refreshing to hear. But Ms. Kerr?
Yes.
So, question, so when we see on phase 2, which is, I guess, the implementation of the program, that's going to start in March. Is that for them to roll it out to the small businesses, or is that still in the collection?
Phase 2 is more so of the rollout and the information and the rollout session. So yes, we're going to do outreach to small business and build our database of local businesses to take advantage of city contracts.
So what would that look like?
It would look like we'll put some marketing around it. I do have some funding in my budget for marketing activities. So we'll get the word out. We'll do registration activities where we'll invite businesses to register. Then part of it is to identify contracting opportunities and package them in a format that would be readily available to local businesses. So some of these smaller contracts below $25,000, we would earmark them and develop policy around how we go about identifying and earmarking those projects. And with the companies that are registered through the system, they'll have a sheltered environment in which to compete for some of these contracts.
So is that relatively pretty easy or easy turnkey as far as the marketing piece of that? Or is this already rolled out in March?
I'm not sure how successful it will be, but the effort itself is fairly easy. One will identify the businesses, and so as part of the marketing, the first step would be a general blast. So it would be email, radio, maybe commercial, and then once we begin identifying, then it turns into the communication and bringing them in to register and setting up the networking opportunities. Then from an internal perspective, identifying contracting opportunities and package them in a way that's readily available to the registered vendors.
Well, definitely let us know, because I think, the majority of us on the council are very supportive of small businesses, and we want to see this be successful. So let us know how we can help you get it out to.
Definitely will.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Carr.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Our next item is council discussion on the 2020 State of the City Address. Communications.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm here to do a brief overview of where we are on the state of the city and to get some direction from you as to anything you would like to see us add, and as well the date of the event. The theme this year, we sat down with the mayor and discussed what the theme would be. We came up with that we are off the ground and flying. We are no longer transitioning. We are now in the air, wheels up, and we are headed upward and onward and flying high. At where we are, well, let me give you a little bit about where we are. We have contracted and worked with an event planner. We are down the road in terms of collateral being produced and designed, not printed. We are in the process. We have invitation lists developed and ready to go. So we are pretty far down the road in planning. The run of show would be similar to last year with the things you see there, traditional event happenings like the Pledge of Allegiance, National Anthem. Again, we will do the prayer with a diversity of clergy from different denominations. The additions this year that will stand out is celebrating our partnership with the Atlanta Opera, as this will be the first event, or was scheduled to be the first event in the Southwest Arts Center. So the Atlanta Opera has agreed to perform, as well as Mr. Larry Hanson, who is the executive director of GMA, will be there to provide comments and share his view of where the city is and our successes. These, and working with and talking with the management at Southwest Arts Center, are the dates that we can work with. So that is basically, in a nutshell, where we are. Again, we would like your feedback on what you would like added, and then further direction on which date you would like us to proceed with.
Okay. Comments?
Yes.
Go ahead. Ms. Willis, go ahead.
My only comment is I just would like to see you all choose a date that majority of council can participate, because if this is a state of the city, I think it will look horrible for majority of the council not to be there, standing in unity with whatever the state of the city address the mayor is giving. And additionally, I was concerned about us having the event on a Saturday morning. The last time we had an event, it was in the middle of the week. It was in the evening, and we had very good participation. And I was just, a little disappointed we didn't get more coverage about it. But now that we got more support and communication, I'm sure we don't have to worry about that. But that's just my take on it. Everything else that has been outlined, I think, is appropriate.
Okay. Mr. Khalid?
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. What is the total cost for this event, and what budget line does it come out of?
The cost as projected right now is in the neighborhood of $25,000 to $27,000. I don't remember the exact number, and it comes out of the communication budget.
Okay, and how much more will it be to reschedule how much will we lose if we reschedule from the current date?
Of that amount, the lion's share is in event planning, which will continue. I do not know the exact number, but we will have to incur a little cost to continue our contract with them, but most of the work is covered in the contract.
So you don't know if it's like we're going to lose a few $1,000s or $10,000 or... And I only ask because there's been a lot of scrutiny on how we're spending taxpayer dollars. So I don't want, we're already at $27,000 for an address. I wouldn't want us to spend thousands more for this event because there's just a lot of scrutiny right now around things like that.
Yes, sir. Understood. We are, my guess is you're not talking tens of thousands of dollars at all. It would be to extend the contract. If you extended it by 25%, you're talking $2,000.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Gumbs?
So I have two questions. Well, actually one. What time of the evening are we looking to do this? Because I want us to keep in mind that a lot of our constituents are traveling in from work. Sometimes 6:30 is kind of pushing it. So if it's a kickoff at 7 p.m., you probably get much greater attendance. And how long do you anticipate the program to last? 2 hours?
So to answer the first part, we are totally open to your suggestion. We can set at 7 o'clock if that's the will of the council. Certainly no more than 2 hours.
Okay. I don't know if we are able to can I make a motion or? Can you poll? Can we do a poll as who is available?
One more.
I yield to Councilwoman Willis.
You do what now? Okay, go ahead.
So I do agree with Councilmember Gumbs. The last time what we did was we had like a pre-reception, a pre-VIP reception, and each of us were given so many tickets. And so I would suggest maybe having a pre-VIP reception like we did last time, maybe from like 6 to 7, and then start the program at 7 or 5 to 7, something like that, and start the program to 7.
And that's surely in the plans because when it was planned for a Saturday, there was a breakfast reception plan.
Okay.
Okay. Are you finished, Ms. Gumbs?
I am.
Okay, Ms. Gilliard.
Are we going to
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Initially, the cost, the cost was going to be a little over $14,000. So is it 27 now because the date has changed? I just would like to know how it got from 14 to 27.
I'm not sure where there's miscommunication. The budget last year was about $29,000, and we projected our original budget to be in line with that. So there has not been that significant of a cost increase.
So it's not miscommunication. Council received a document that said it was $14,000. That's why I'm asking the question.
Yes, ma'am. I do not recall seeing that document. The documents we've worked from, the budgets have been in the neighborhood of $27,000, $28,000.
Okay, so maybe I should ask the city manager, the original document that came out, it had $2,500 for the opera folks. It was $8,000.
That's how much had been expended. The budget has always been $27,000.
I see.
Yes,
I see. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gilliard. Ms. Willis,
And we actually are trying to come in lower than last year's budget and save money.
Ms. Willis, you're back in the queue. We'll conclude with Ms. Gumbs.
Oh, no, she yielded to me. So
Ms. Gomes, you back in.
So I just want to know are we okay with Wednesday, March the 25th? Council, I guess I'm doing a straw poll. Are we able to do that?
I'm okay.
Just general consent, you can't vote.
Yeah, I'm okay with that date. Councilwoman Brown said she's okay with that date.
Anybody else?
Yeah, right now.
Okay, you okay with it? Okay.
So,
All right.
I mean, we accept that as consensus so that we can move forward. It doesn't require a vote, but as long as there's consensus.
Well, there is consensus, you got 4
staff
people.
can move forward on it.
You got 4 people.
You have at least 5 people who said they were.
Understood. Again, for the record, I just want to make sure we
That's
got
right.
consensus. So we will be moving forward with the 25th, 7 p.m.
All right,
We'll follow up with an email to confirm and notify you of that.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
I don't care.
Something that wasn't answered.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
What are you saying?
Looking forward to it.
Answered.
Thank you.
Somebody asked what budget was coming out of, and he never answered that.
Next item on the agenda, council discussion on City of South Fulton Charter Review, Procurement.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. I'm here to discuss the city's option with regards to our procurement of a policy professional to review our city charter and to make recommendations. During the December 16th special call meeting, Council had directed the city manager to use whatever lawful means to secure an academic institution to review our charter and to make recommendation for any change, if any. Based off that directive handed down by the city manager, I reached out to several local academic institutions, including the Georgia State, University of Georgia, Georgia College, and Morehouse College, excuse me. All of those institutions declined to perform the service. Georgia State declined because they had insufficient staff. University of Georgia declined because it wasn't in their core competence. Georgia College initially accepted, but they later declined because it wasn't within their core competence. Morehouse likewise declined. I also put out a request for quotation through our GovQuote software, and that yielded one proposal at a cost and at a proposed cost of $4,500. Additionally, I reached out to DOAS for recommendation, and they recommended several people, including Mr. Jay Weed of MJ Weed Consulting. Also, I reached out to our current attorney performing the annexation, which is Mr. Gerald Davis. The result of all of that together, I've included all the presentations for Mayor and Council to consider. The result of all of that is that despite the council directive, I was unable to secure an academic institution. They did decline to perform the service. In any event, it is my opinion that they wouldn't have been best suited to perform the service based off my interviews with them, the questions they were asking, and the feedback they were giving me. I don't believe that they would have been the best suited. Mr. Jay Weed of Jay Weed Consulting would be my recommendation for council to consider. Mr. Jay Weed is in the business of charter review. He's performed several of these reviews, and he's currently doing it for several cities. He came highly recommended from the DOAS, and his proposal and his resume is attached for Mayor and Council to consider. The cost of this review will be $3,000, and it will take approximately 30 days for him to complete the review, and it will be about 30 hours worth of work for him to complete the review. So with council's direction, I could initiate a process to move forward with Mr. Weed.
Okay, Mr. Khalid?
Are these accurate that Georgia State and University of Georgia, one says that they are limited staff and resources, and then one says it's outside of the core competency? Are those mixed up? Is Georgia State outside of the core competency and University of Georgia have a lack of resources?
I do not believe it's inaccurate, but I did reach out to all. They all did decline the Carl Vince Institute. I'm not sure which university.
Yeah, that's University of Georgia.
Right. They did not have enough staff to dedicate to the service.
Right. So because I reached out to them too, so that it's definitely in their competency.
Okay.
I have a 70-page document where they reviewed the charter for Peachtree Corners. So it's definitely something they do. It's something that they still do. They can't do it right now because there is a staffing issue. Remember, there's a personal issue with the staff, so they're just not available at this moment. I'm not sure that we have any rush to do it now.
Okay.
Because as the maker of the motion, we definitely wanted to use an academic institution because we thought that they would be respected, they would be non-politicized, and we wanted to have a version of an amended charter to present to our state reps. However, it has come to my attention that there are 3 bills moving through the State House right now to amend the charter. So I'm not sure that hiring somebody now to look at a charter that is being amended right now is the best thing to do. We probably need to wait to see how many of those amendments pass, how many of them are signed by the governor or vetoed, and then just take a look at that charter and how that will comport with all of the ordinances that we've already passed. And by that time, I believe that Carl Vinson might be available. We have a 5-year charter review that's like mandated. But the rush was really to prevent our state representatives from amending the charter without the advisement of an academic institution. They've already gone ahead and done that. So I'm not sure, again, that it's really critical that we hire another consultant to pay another bill to do something like this right now.
Very well.
Okay, Ms. Gilliard?
Thank you, Councilman Khalid. I too am concerned about timing. Timing always means, a lot. But in addition to that, I do know that there are a lot of consultants that work for the Carl Vinson Institute. In fact, we had one that began our strategic planning process, and he was able to come to this group and get us to actually come up with vision and mission in about 4 hours, and that was just phenomenal to get us to agree to that. But the point I'm trying to make is that it might not necessarily be the Carl Vinson Institute as much as it is the trainers that they hire who have an awful lot of experience in a lot of different areas. So that might be another avenue to look into to see whether or not some of those consultants might be available to do it. I just want to make sure that it is objective, independent, and we get a thorough review.
Okay, Ms. Gums and Ms. Willis, and we'll conclude there.
So, Mr. Kerr, for this gentleman, what other municipalities has he worked with in Georgia other than the city of Hogansville?
He does have his resume attached.
I didn't see
give me 1 second.
the cities that he's worked for, other than the city of Hogansville. And his cost is only $3,000?
Yes, the costs range from between $3,000 to $5,000. So this work will typically be performed by an attorney, and it will typically take approximately 30 hours or so. So all the quotes that I received was consistent with that range.
And that would take about, what, 30, I'm assuming 30 days to go through the charter review?
Yes.
So technically, it may be in time for whatever recommendations before whenever. But I think, and Councilman Khalid, I understand the sense of urgency in regards to this, but I also think that it is, again, an objective set of eyes that are actually looking over our charter. And $3,000 doesn't seem, is very minimal. So even if something comes back to say, you know, there's some changes that we could recommend, I think it would behoove us to at least, you know, consider that.
Okay. All right.
I want to yield to Councilwoman Rao because she didn't get into the queue. I'm sorry.
I concur with Councilwoman Gumbs' assessment. Regardless of what happens with that process, I do think we should have objective basis to look at the charter. And I think we know, just having gone through 2 years, 3 years of operating, we have totally different perspectives about what our challenges might be as a city. And so, and from a governance and an operating standpoint. So I actually welcome it. In addition, I'm not necessarily lost on it if they have some qualifications doing it in other cities. I also know GMA has a model charter that I've looked at extensively, and it's some very good content in there that we should consider. And so I think irregardless of that, you also know we had an opportunity to address our charter as well. So I think we should proceed.
Ms. Gumbs, you still have the floor. You think?
I'm finished.
Okay, Ms. Willis, and we'll go on, call the next item.
Yeah, so our current charter calls for a full charter review after 5 years. And what's supposed to happen is that we commission a committee to review our charter. I would like, since it's a minimum cost of $3,000, just for this to be done to give us some guidance. The state legislators have been quite clear that whatever recommendation that comes out the study, they're not going to entertain because they're state legislators and they entertain legal counsel. But for us, we're a new city and we do need objective guidance. I think it would be good for the council to get objective guidance. Because in 5 years, this charter will have to go through a full review, and we will have to include community members, and at least we will have something that we can give to our community members to help guide them.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kerr. Madam Clerk.
Next item is quarterly legal update, City Attorney.
And I'm still receiving updates from at least 3 council members, so I'm going to defer this to the March meeting, if that's okay.
That's fine.
No, I have a question for her.
She has a question.
You said you were receiving updates from who?
Just communications with council members about their legislative agenda. So I have information I need to organize, prioritize.
Because I haven't received anything from you.
Well, it's not something that
Well, this is
an email that they sent me saying this is what I want to do, and it's just me responding and updating their private individual legislative calendar with what the emails that they've sent me.
Attorney Walker, here's my concern. This is on record. The first meeting in October of last year, I asked you to bring to our council meeting a review of all ordinances, resolutions, and litigation, which you told me that you had to give that to us in executive session. You said on record that you would have it the next council meeting. And this is February, and we still don't have anything.
So I can discuss that. There is a reason. So I did bring the litigation report. We've had a lot of subsequent litigation after that, which required substantial updates, and by subsequent, I mean you've had extensive litigation, you've had multiple you've had hearings, trials, like moment, et cetera. I did bring a litigation report to 2 meetings. Why it was not read, I don't think you may not want to discuss that publicly.
That's fine, but our ordinances, our legislation, there's no reason why we don't have that.
Well, your legislation is based on the communications that you give to me. Individually, each of you give me communication saying this is something I want to sponsor. I use that to create my personal legislative agenda for you so I'll know what we're processing.
But you typically have shared it with the entire council so that we would not, work on the same thing. And we haven't had one since probably spring of last year. And I asked for it on record in October. The first meeting in October, you told me you were going to give it to us the very next meeting in October, and we still have nothing.
Well, for clarification, you didn't ask me for everyone's legislative agenda. You asked me for litigation.
Well, don't you think that's something you should, hold on, I'm asking a question. Don't you think that's something that you should at least provide to this entire council on a quarterly basis?
I prepared a comprehensive litigation update. And
No. I'm talking about ordinances. You explained, you said you're going to discuss litigation in the back. My question to you is for resolutions and ordinances. We typically ask for you to give us what's in the pipeline. So we would not step over each other, or we won't work on something that someone is already working on.
So can we
Don't at this point hold your answer. I'm a little bit concerned about the fact of saying too much if there is some illegal basis for not saying anything in public. So you asked for us to hold this.
That is correct.
To the next meeting, okay.
Yes,
If there's a general consensus that we do this, I would suggest that we make that consensus known now, because I do not want to get over into an area we're not supposed to get into.
Well, Mayor,
No, it's not more. Just give me a general consensus.
Yeah, that's fine. But Mayor, I just want to let you know, I was talking about what's in the queue in reference to ordinances and resolutions. So I want to clarify that.
That's accepted. That's
Okay.
accepted. Okay. Then it's a general consensus that we talk about the next meeting.
Yes.
No, I'm sorry, I haven't.
Well, that's your hand was up.
I haven't gotten to speak yet, and I had a question.
Either.
So
I'm saying to you, all I'm saying to you guys is she made, because of the nature of what she felt
That's
was
fine.
legal or not, she asked for us to hold it. I don't know what
That's
your
fine.
listen to me. I don't know what your questions are, but she may not be able to, because of that, to answer that question. She's asking that she do it at another time.
That's fine.
So now,
I have a process question.
okay, go right ahead, and then Ms. Gilliard will close out.
Because I do not see an attorney's report on the general meeting. And so if I have questions about other legal issues, when in this meeting can I ask those questions? Because this is the legal section of the work session, and there is no legal section in the general meeting.
So there's typically a section that says city attorney report.
Right.
If it's not, you'd have to ask the clerk. I don't know if that was taken out.
I'm assuming that it was taken off because you're in the work session, but
Correct. Her email to me was quarterly report on the work session.
Correct.
She asked
That is correct.
So she's
so will
asking.
it be?
Hold up.
I'm sorry, just another process question. Will it be possible to hear from our city manager in the our city attorney in the general meeting? And we would need to do that by amending the agenda?
Yes. Just when you get ready to approve the agenda, add that item to the agenda.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Gilliard.
I have a request for the attorney. I would very much like for you to prepare a document for all of us, and it would be open record, so it would be available for the public. I want you to prepare a document that reflects everything that you've done and accomplished since you've come on board with us. Could you do that?
I can do that.
You know, without without compromising any executive session or anything like that, but I think that is very important.
So that would basically be the update I was going to give. I can just expand it to include information.
Yes, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I can
Thank
do
you.
that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Madam Attorney. That ends the work session. I need a motion to adjourn the work session.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor? Let's go. We'll be back here properly at 7 o'clock.